Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. This bulletin is coming to you live from our studios here at Kokomlemle in Accra on digital address GA0993341 on Joy 99.7 FM. It's also live on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, affiliates across the country on ABN Radio in London and around the world at myjoyonline.com. The news is brought to you by Telesol 4G Just a Touch. It's been 207 days since Priscilla Blessing Bintum, the first of the three females believed to have been kidnapped in Takoradi, disappeared. The second, Ruth Love Quason, has been gone for 98 days, while the third, Priscilla Mansibia Crunchy, has been missing for 81 days. Here at Joy News, we join forces with families and friends to demand swift and consistent action from state security agencies with a hashtag Bring Back Our Chadi Girls. And coming up, CID headquarters begins investigations into death threats on Joy News' Manasseh Azuriah-Winnie following the investigation that revealed a political party militia is operating at the Osu Castle. Public Accounts Committee of Parliament raises concern about failure of Health Minister Kweku Agyeman-Manu to appear before the committee to respond to the ministry's expenses in 2016.
He fails to appear before we know what to tell him, because he's been a chairman of this committee, and we saw how he handled the committee and ministers who failed to appear before the committee.
Half of all neonatal deaths at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital happening 24 hours after birth. The Situation Hospital authorities blame on lack of incubators.
Equipment, it has to do with expertise, it has to do with infrastructure.
Today, officials of the Health Ministry and the wife of the Vice President are at the facility following the revelation. In sports,
Kumasi Asante Kotoko says Chief Executive says Black Stars coach Kwesi Appiah couldn't have looked any further than the three players from the team named in his recent 24-man squad to play Kenya in a qualifier this month. And later on the Midday News, we tell you how an NGO in the Accra suburb of Jamestown is using basketball to get school children to read.
There are kids that come, they are grouped into teams, and then each team they have 1 day of basketball, and then the next day they have to go to the library.
We have all that and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau. And the Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police Service says it is investigating death threats on the life of head of Joy News Investigative Desk, Manasseh Azuriah-Winnie. The threats come in the wake of Joy News' latest work, which exposed the presence of a political party militia group at the Christians Walk Castle in Osu. Joining me in the studio is my Joy Online editor, Malik Abbas Dabu, with more on this development. Malik, where are these threats coming from?
Well, we do know that these threats are coming from persons who have been affected by the documentary. We can state that this is neither sanctioned by the government or the New Patriotic Party, who is the governing party. Nonetheless, we do know that some people have made these threats. The threats have been, the information that we have gathered has been given to the Criminal Investigations Department. And in fact, before we sent our information, the CID itself said they picked up intelligence on this and they are following up to assess the seriousness and the veracity of some of these threats on the life of our colleague.
Now, on the story itself, there's been reactions from the government and there appears to be some contradictions in the position the government has on this matter. What have we spotted so far?
Well, one of the fundamental contradictions that we have noted is the one relating to when the guys were evicted from the castle. Remember that we were told by the Information Ministry that the eviction took place in October 2018. But now we have Brian Achampong, who is the Minister of State at the Ministry of National Security, stating that they were aware of a party which was held by these guys in December 21st to be exact, in the castle. Now, if the people were evicted in October, how could they have access to the same place from which they were evicted in December 21st on which they held this party? And indeed, in our documentary and in our analysis, we had pointed out that they had this party in December and they had celebrated what they had done amongst themselves in December. So the Brian Achampong statement confirms what we gathered, which was in stark contradiction to the Information Ministry's claim that the people were evicted in October 2018. One of the other things was that Brian Achampong in his Facebook post actually said that the guys were jobless, they were harmless job seekers, and yet on the People's Own website, which we know has been taken down now, they said that they are a security company providing security services to companies. And again, we have pointed out that our checks indicate this company was not licensed in accordance with law to undertake the kind of services that they said they were providing. Again, we pointed out government has said that national security was not aware of the presence of these guys at the castle.
Mm-hmm.
But Brian Champo in his Facebook post says that national security was indeed aware, and also stated that attempts were made on 3 separate occasions to evict them, and that on the 3rd occasion arrests were actually made. This again is in stark contradiction to what we had been told earlier regarding the presence of these guys there. And again, the last point about they being harmless, if they were that harmless, why did it take the whole national security 3 attempts to be able to evict them from this area?
Malik, thank you. We'll continue to throw more light on the contradictions in the claims made by various government officials. Now, following the broadcast of the documentary Militias in the Heart of the City, government has dissociated itself from the I Group. But it appears the group is well known in NPP circles. Spokesperson of the Invisible Forces in the Ashanti region, Alhaji Haruna Mohammed, popularly called Odenke, says the I is another militia group affiliated to the NPP. He spoke to our sister station Love FM in Kumasi following the president's request for the disbanding of party militias in Ghana. Listen.
MPP, they have Delta Force Invisible and the I in the MPP. And NDC too, they have Azuka Boys, the Ox, and the Motor Riders, and the Bashaka. They are almost 6 or 8. So when the president said that they are going to ban vigilante, I've agreed on him.
So you heard there the spokesperson of the Invisible Forces in the Ashanti region, Alhaji Haruna Mohammed, stating that the I is one of the vigilante groups in the NPP. Now, there are calls on the government to arrest the people behind the formation of the I militia group. Leading member of Occupy Ghana, Asa Nkrumah, says the group is illegal and must face the law.
Right.
Although video footage showed the personnel going through some form of military training, government has denied they are a threat to the state. But Minister of State at the National Security, Brian Champon, in a Facebook post indicated they had arrested head of the group, Nana Reku, Elias Choman, once before shutting down the group's operations in October. Deputy Minority Leader James Kluche Aveji wants government to urgently crack the whip on this group.
We call on the Inspector General of Police to immediately, that is before close of day, carry out a swoop and arrest the leaders and members of the I Group in militia.
The minority's call was backed by the majority, as its chief whip Matthew Nyendam insisted it's in the right direction.
Always call on the IGP and the police to arrest those perpetrators, people who are perpetuating illegality.
The pressure seems to be escalating as leading member of Occupy Ghana, Asa Nkrumah, demanded authorities enforce the law and arrest the group.
So here is an admission on the website of these people and from the videos that we are committing an offense. What should happen? Arrest them. Put them before court. But this is these guys on the face of it are as guilty as sin.
Political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, Dr. Ali Duseido, agreed.
But in this instance, I don't think this group are organized for either crime control or social control. They are doing something else, which is against the law. And the law has to deal with it.
It remains to be seen if these calls will be heeded by the relevant authorities.
So let's stay a while longer on militias who are in the heart of the city, because the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, Afil Money, has commended Joy News for its latest investigative piece on the pro-NPP militia group and the sustained campaign to disband such groups. Speaking at an event to inaugurate the newly refurbished press center of the Ministry of Information, he says Joy News' decision to show the documentary demonstrates courage, which is worthy of emulation. He spoke to my colleague Maxwell Agbagba, who was at the event.
I think Manasseh deserves commendation and Joy FM for having the courage to come out with such a piece at a time when, you know, it's very difficult because look at the backlash from certain supporters, even from journalists. You know, you need a tougher skin and professional dexterity to do what Manasseh did. The debate continues that as a nation we have a responsibility imposed by necessity to deal with vigilantism once and for all. All of us are at risk, not only political actors, also journalists, because we go out to report and we encounter them. So must we allow the worst to happen before we act? The answer is no. So we commend Joy FM for the for the campaign it has launched, until all of us ought to lend our support to this campaign to rid our country of thuggery and excessive force in our body politic.
GJA President Afil Moni speaking at an event to inaugurate the newly refurbished press center of the Information Ministry. Also in attendance was the Chief of Staff, Fremo Seopare, and she urged the Information Ministry to also look at ways of making the Information Services Department very effective.
I must admit that in Ghana, whilst we may have made substantial progress in areas such as girl child education and reduction in the rate of school dropouts, we have not made the same progress in the area of female participation in decision-making at local, district, and national governance structures. There has been a lot of seminars and debates on the factors that account for the low participation of women. Some of these factors are very real and include the very process of childcare, which is easy to gloss over as it is deemed the natural responsibility of women. But there are other factors such as political illiteracy, resource constraints, the lack of confidence, low capacities, the threat of violence, negative stereotyping of women who engage in politics, and the complicated bureaucracies of political party structures all hinder the attainment of this goal. The government of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is keen on changing this trend and giving women their rightful place of active participation in the governance of this country.
Chief of Staff Fremo Seopare, on his part, Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah says the ministry will in the coming months roll out more initiatives to strengthening the media's engagement with government officials.
So for us, refurbishing this press center with the objective of providing a more comfortable working environment both for government actors and the media is only a start. In the coming months, we look to roll out a couple more initiatives to further the exercise of deepening engagement between state actors and the media. We, on our part as government actors, will remain open and decorous in our engagement with you in the media, and we expect that you will do the same too. It is our belief that by working hand in hand, we can achieve what we believe is our mutual objective, building a nation great and strong.
You heard the Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah. This is the midday news here on Joy 99.7 FM. Let's turn our attention to other stories now, because 50% of all neonatal deaths at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital happen within 24 hours. Hospital authorities blame the situation on poor resourcing of the facility. The revelations came up during a review of the hospital's performance in 2018. Richard Kujonyako reports.
The cry of babies at the neonatal intensive care units of the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. Sadly, it is not all the babies here that live to tell the stories they brought forth with to the world. Some barely spend 24 hours in this world. Yema Mariama Bukari is a specialist pediatrician at the hospital.
It has to do with referrals, it has to do with equipment, it has to do with expertise, it has to do with infrastructure. And even that does not solve all of the problems. There are many more. Looking at our neonatal deaths, we realize that 50% of our deaths are dying within the first 24 hours when it comes to newborns. So generally, all the newborn mortalities, 60% of our mortalities, the deaths, are from outside referrals. And then 40% are inborn, that is from the delivery suite. If you want to see those who are dying within the first week, it goes up to about 80%.
Practically, the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital has no neonatal intensive care unit. Simply put, the unit purchased with another department. As at the end of 2018, they had only one functional incubator. That's not all. Nurses and doctors here go through hectic moments in order to save babies here, because equipment and other supporting facilities are practically not there.
Richard Kujunyako's report that today, wife of the Vice President Samira Bawumia and some officials from the Health Ministry are at the hospital as we speak. Richard Kujunyako joins us on the line with more. So Richard, are there any interim measures in place to cure the situation?
Well, yes, according to the CEO of the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, they are putting in place measures, but the Ministry of Health has been alerted on this situation that they need equipment, and because there is no neonatal intensive care unit here, they are mobilizing resources to put up one so that they could take care of the children that are brought here.
Well, of course, we'll get more on that in our subsequent bulletins. But let's head to Parliament now, because the Parliament's Public Accounts Committee is raising concerns over the failure of the Ministry of Health, Kweku Agyeman-Manu, to appear before the committee to respond to questions relating to the ministry's expenditure for the year 2016. The PAC chairman, James Kluti-Aveji, says the minister has so far failed to appear before the committee since he was appointed, a situation he maintains is not the very best. Deputy Health Minister Kingsley Abuaji-Jedu apologized to the committee for the failure of his minister to show up.
I actually wanted to be here. Unfortunately, he is bereaved, number one. And number two, just this morning, the World Bank mission has just come to the ministry. And that explains why even then. So we are hoping that you will have a brief meeting with them and then he will join us in the course of the hearing. Thank you very much. But he sends his apologies and he has asked me to step in whilst he deals with them.
But it appears that explanation still did not suffice for some of the members. Joseph Akablé is monitoring events there and joins us on the line. What more do they want?
So the concern by the Public Accounts Committee was to the effect that this is not the first time they are hearing of the failure of the minister to show up. In fact, James Kluti-Aveji, who is the chairperson, says since the minister was appointed, he has failed to show up before the committee, and they expect much better from someone who himself has led this committee as his chairman. So they are still waiting for him to show up as was promised.
Before we know what to tell him, because he's been a chairman of this committee, and we saw and knew how he handled the committee and ministers who failed to appear before the committee. So he himself must not say what he said in the past and now be doing a different thing, because he always failed to appear before this committee. He has never. It's you, honorable member, who is now moving to Western North as a minister after you have been vetted and approved by the House. You now go leave the ministry. You are now coming to respond to questions. And should we take what answer you've been giving as the position of the Minister of Health?
Mr. Chairman, in all humility, yes, because I'm not here in my capacity, in my personal capacity. I'm here as a Deputy Minister of Health, and I'm flanked by the Chief Director, who is the head of administration, and I have on my left is the Chief Director General of Ghana Health Service. Both of them will remain even when I leave, and then the Financial Controller of the Ministry of Health is also here. The Financial Controller of Ghana Health Service is also here. So I believe that there's no fears at all.
But Joseph, just before we let you off, anytime the PAC sits, there are startling revelations. Have we started recording any yet?
Yes, there was one that came up in relation to the College of Health at Kintampo, and this has to do with one official that we are told earned an amount of 86,735 cedis for a period of 1 year that he did not work. So it is captured in the Auditor General's report as an earned salary. And information coming from the Deputy Health Minister is to the effect that the said individual has been transferred to the Ministry of Health headquarters, aside from the fact that the amount has been levied as a loan granted him and he's to pay an amount of 3,000 cedis monthly. But the concern of the committee was to the effect that this has taken too long for the ministry to implement, because it has been more than 3 years, and as of now the amount of 86,735 cedis remains outstanding.
And it's just the first day of the sitting. Brace yourself for more. You're still listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. Our top stories so far: CID headquarters begins investigations into death threats on Joy News investigative journalist Manasseh Azuriawene following the investigation that revealed a political party militia is operating at the Osu Castle. Still to come, we'll tell you the story of a 20-year-old boy kidnapped at Brekum and starved for 4 days, plus the heroic action of his soldier uncle to rescue him.
They said that they should send 1,500 before they leave me. And I was telling them that, oh, my family, this money that you have mentioned, I don't think that we can get it because our family is a poor family.
And later, we'll tell you how an NGO in the Accra suburb of Jamestown is using basketball to get school children to read.
There are kids that come, they are grouped into teams, and then each team, they have one day of basketball, and then the next day they have to go to the library.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Let's do some sports now. Quite a sporting weekend. And Ridwan Ibrahim Asante has the very latest. Ridwan, what's in sports?
Yeah, now the Black Stars roster for the final 2019 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Kenya in Accra has been released. And it includes 3 players from Kumasi Asante Kotoko, goalkeeper Felix Annan, midfielder Kwame Bonsu, and defender Amos Frimpong. Now, Kotoko's chief executive, George Amwako, says the trio fully deserves the collapse.
Well, if you want to pick any boys locally, you cannot look beyond Kotoko. No team in Ghana is playing any football as we speak. I think Conte, the goalkeeper, should be okay for the Black Stars, considering what we normally bring from outside. These are good enough to compete with them.
You heard George Amwakude. More on the Black Stars call up and also looking ahead to what happened at the weekend. At 1 p.m. Gary Al Smith and the rest of the team will be here for the sports track.
Thank you very much, Ridwan. Now, he was lured out of his home in Brekum with the promise of getting a job, then kidnapped and starved of food for 4 days. His kidnappers demanded a ransom of 1,500 Ghana cedis from the relatives before releasing him. It took the heroic move of his uncle, a soldier, to track down and rescue his nephew after the police could not make progress on the case. Joy News' Emmanuel Jivenu caught up with 20-year-old Geoffrey Mbocho, who shares the story of how he managed to survive in the hands of 8 abductors.
I have come to the Bema camp here in Accra to meet a traumatized kidnapped victim, Godfred Mbutum. He was abducted for 4 days without food. When he complained, he was given marijuana to smoke. The 20-year-old said he was lured with construction work by individuals he knew in Kato, a suburb of Brekum in the Bono region, while running errands for the mother.
And they told me that there is a nice job, so that I should come and join them. And they told me that, it's a nice construction job. When we go to some place, I realized that I can't see anymore again. Yeah. Then something hold my sandals. So I was pulling myself back, trying to wear the sandals And that was the time that they slapped me and they pushed me forward. Because I said I'm hungry, they went and brought a weed to me that I should take.
Unknowingly, he was sedated, kept in an uncompleted building at an obscure location. His kidnappers demanded a ransom of 1,500 cedis from the relatives. Geoffrey said upon hearing the news, the mother collapsed and was rushed to the hospital.
I was calling my family, telling them, and my family told me that I should tell them that they should wait. They are still looking for the money that they will send.
After failing to get his elder brother to raise the money, he contacted his uncle, who is a military man. His uncle, Lieutenant Maxwell Kutolozi, said he reported the case to the police, but after 2 days without any result, he sought permission from his military command to search for the nephew.
I didn't really get any progressive report. So I went to my boss in the office and told him there was a matter at stake. I explained to him that as I speak, my nephew is kidnapped, and even if I stay in the office, I cannot work because I had lost all my focus and then I needed to take an action. When they asked for the money, I told the victim to tell them that as at now, the mother, upon hearing the kidnap, had collapsed and she was on admission at the hospital. So the monies may come in trickles. 2,500 they expected the following day. But I gave money out for the victim's elder brother to be paid in. The first day he paid in 200 cedis. That was to monitor and know the areas where they would withdraw the money. Then we can know the probable location of the people. But usually I pay in the money in the night so that the money cannot be withdrawn in the night. They will go and withdraw it in the morning.
According to him, the kidnappers could not stand the heat and had to release the nephew.
We would have had the people, but our number was not enough. They couldn't contain him. The best option was to just throw him away and run away. We were getting them the next morning.
Geoffrey was dropped in the middle of the night at an unknown location to find his way home. After such a traumatic experience, Geoffrey has relocated to Accra to stay with his uncle and also seeking medical attention after starving for days.
Geoffrey was lucky because he has an uncle who is a soldier. How about Priscilla Blessing Bentum? She's been gone for 207 days. That's the first of the 3 females believed to have been kidnapped in Takoradi. And the second, Ruth Love Kwesing, has been gone for 98 days, whilst the third, Priscilla Mansibia Kranche, has been missing for 81 days. Here at Joy News, we join forces with families and friends to demand swift and consistent action from state security agencies. The hashtag is still Bring Back Our Tardy Girls. Now, the Ghana Library Authority has declared 2019 a year of reading. The reason is to boost reading among the youth. Well, an NGO in the Accra suburb of Jamestown, Dunk, is pushing the campaign in its own way with an incentive for school children there. One day for basketball and the next day for reading. Joy News is in 10. Jeremiah Bruna was in the community and has come through with his report.
The Ghana Library Authority has declared 2019 to the year of reading. The aim is to motivate Ghanaians to come more frequent to the library to educate themselves. Big libraries carry the aura of wisdom and knowledge. But how do you attract the youth? The community-based NGO Dunk has its own strategy to get the children off the street and into reading. Basketball. Behind the compound of the Jamestown Community Center, there is a basketball court. Kids and adolescents in neon bibs are training to dunk the ball in the basket. Behind the court, there is a library with an attached office. The walls are painted with graffitis. We meet Mohammed Tahir. He is the co-founder of the community-based NGO.
If we come to communities like Jamestown, if I establish just a library here, it would be very difficult to encourage kids to just go to the library because there's kids that they are not used to a structure like that. So what we try to do is add a component of sports in it. So the sports is an incentive for the kids to go to the library. There are kids that come, they are grouped into teams. And then each team, they have one day of basketball, and then the next day they have to go to the library.
Dunk started 8 years ago at the Nima Community Youth Cultural Center. Since 2016, the Nima Center also has its own library. But it seems like not everything is going well in Nima.
That's Jeremiah Bruna's report. Now, patrons of Joy FM's Fantastic Four Adventures who were unable to make it to the top of Afajato, the highest mountain in Ghana last year, challenged themselves to do so in this year's edition. And they made it. My colleague Mapito Sabidi, who successfully climbed the mountain, reports it was challenging but definitely rewarding.
We have made it to the top. I am barely alive. I can barely feel my feet. Let me just talk to some people about the experience. Tell me, how was it?
It was tiring, but it's a nice experience.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, I will.
It was tiring. My third time up here, but this was the worst. It was so tiring, as if I've not done it before. But
how does it feel to be at the top?
Satisfying. The view here is great, so yeah.
64 years old and she made it to the top. That's some inspiration right there. Mommy, what kept you going? How was it?
It was hard. Well, I decided to go back, but the guy helping me said, oh, we're almost there. So we just kept pushing. Yeah. To begin with, I'm diabetic. So for my own health, I need to do a lot of exercise.
Best answer?
Pizza.
General Putin.
Pizza.
Hey, this one too, you've made it.
No, easy.
Hey, how was it? Tell me.
It was interesting. I think I enjoyed it. I didn't think I would actually make it. You know, this is the third time I've been here, but my first time getting to the summit or the top. So I think I took it a step at a time. You know.
Lexus.
Mapito.
We made it to the top.
Yes, we made it.
We
Congratulations.
made it. I'm
so proud of you.
I'm proud of myself.
You took it so easily.
Yes, I did.
I did it in a few minutes past 30. I think it was 32 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
would you do it again?
Yes, of course, I'll do it any day. Honestly, I'm actually proud of myself.
Advice to first timers.
Oh, take it easy. I mean, you should be telling us. You should be advising the first timers because this is your first time, isn't it?
Okay.
And,
my advice: don't do it. Don't do it. Tough, long, tiring, but also very satisfying are some of the words to describe our journey here to the top of Afajato.
And that's Mapito, Savidi, and the rest of their journey to the Afajato. Join us as we prepare to embark on the second trip. That's the Treasure Island in Ada next week, just this weekend on Saturday. How many hours did it take you to the top, Mapito?
You see, I don't think it's about duration. I made it to the top. That's the most important thing.
Okay.
Whether it took me 10 hours, it's okay. I made it to the top.
So what are people talking about on social media?
All right, people are talking about the Boeing after that horrific accident. And this one is from AG, who says several airlines have grounded their fleet of Boeing 737 MAX. And this one is from @Press, who says Indonesia grounds Boeing 737 MAX airplanes for inspection following Ethiopian Airlines crash.
And that's what's trending on social media. Do join us for our fantastic fort tour, and it's happening this Saturday, Treasure Island. For me, doctors have advised against climbing mountains. And that's it for the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Have a great week. I am MFAPO.
And welcome to the MTN Weather Report. Still, I'm not for and dry. But this year, whatever your needs are, we're there for you. Now, the details of my weather report. 15,000 cities could blow from the intertropical boundaries across the country. We can also see a mist of fog patches of 25,000 cities and a heavy monetary downpour of 30,000 cities. A move to moderate the dry season across the country. Now, ladies and gentlemen, everywhere you go, whether it be school fees or akasisem fees, we're there for you. Rent advance, salary advance, there's sort of advance, because with